Cody Bennett for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Top 5 Friday. Every Friday we get together and we have a look at the top 5, something probably to do with Blood Bowl. Now, last week, with Amazon's pending, we had a look to see what great third-party alternatives there are out there for you. And this week, we're looking at another team of legend, High Elves. But unlike the Amazons, there is no rumour of what will become of the High Elf team. So at the moment, you're good to go. So there will be 2 teams that we don't mention that you really should consider before we move on. This is the 3rd edition Games Workshop team. They've done some made to orders for them, and you can probably pick them up on eBay. They're classic models. They are 28mm scale. We're now in the world of 32mm scale. The newer Blood Bowl models are definitely bigger than the older ones, so these guys are a little bit small, but they are a little bit cool. So definitely one to watch is if you want a High Elf team, you can just find the actual High Elf team from Games Workshop. The alternative is getting a box of Elven Union and finding some High Elf heads. You can 3D print some, you can get some from old silver helms, which is what Bloodtithe bended, and you can convert your team, or you could quite frankly just use an Elven Union team as High Elves. It's not as thematically cool, but it can be done because they basically have the same positional set. So, with that kind of disclaimer out of the way, we put out a comment earlier this week, and we had a bunch of great suggestions. So I put your suggestions together with mine, and I'm going to bring up now the top 5 High Elf teams. Number 5 is a team I'd not seen before until a bunch of you have recommended it in the comment. Star Player Miniatures have got this High Elf team. Now, this is the Silver Arrows High Elf team, and I think we can flick through and see some of the models. So, they have caught the classic Games Workshop aesthetic. They've got the fancy helmet. So basically we're looking at a tall helm with a gem, with a display. Also works for Dark Elves as well. And you've got that kind of, it's not Roman, it's not Greek, but it's got that kind of classical vibe to it, where you've got the chainmail with the scale mail skirt over the top of it. It's just classic High Elf vibes, basically. And you can see you've got the shoulder pads, you've got the tall helmets, you've got that elven look, and they do a really good job. Full disclosure, I haven't seen these models in person, so I know a couple of you guys flagged up last week that I was like, we needed the size comparison. I can't do it for you because I didn't know these models existed, to be honest with you. Star Player Miniatures are kind of... oh, I like that. You've got the kind of Calador helmet. So another bit of the aesthetic for High Elves, which you saw in the Games Workshop team, is that their blitzers have normally got kind of like a Dragon Prince of Calador helmet style. So they've got like this, with dragon wings on the side of the helmet, and normally some more ornate style of armor. Absolutely ticks it off. So guarantee that these 2 are the blitzers. This guy with a shoulder pad on fire, nice, is definitely your thrower. So you've got 2 throwers, and then you've got the White Lions of Crace as your catchers. That's interesting. Maybe if they had Dauntless, that would work. So actually, this team has got all your positionals, gets across the Elven style, and I think actually looks very good from a base point of view. Now, you can buy this. No, you can't. It's out of stock. €80 from starplayershop.com. Whether they're going to come back in shop or not, I don't know. But a good start. Number 4 is Myth Bowl RNE Studios High Touch Full Team. So this is the RNE Studios High Elf team. And we can see now that they've got a whole mixture of poses for your team. The style is very much along the same lines, right? You've got the same kind of cone head style helmet. You've got the kind of bigger shoulder pads that kind of befit the thing. You've got the kind of that midriff piece of armor where it comes to like a point in the middle with a bit of another gem. High Elves have got these little gems everywhere. They kind of it links into their design aesthetic. Actually, this team works really well. I think it has a slight advantage in that it is actually in stock. You get 16 players for this team. You get all the positionals. It is €100 though, and this is the danger of third-party teams. They can be really lovely and really nice alternatives to Games Workshop, but they can also be very pricey. So you've got the catcher here. who's catching. You've got the thrower. Same helmet, though. It's not a bad team. It's not the most inspiring, but it will absolutely get the job done. So RNE Studio, High Elves, it looks like it's basically they do some really, really lovely sculpts. And they're one of those companies that just keeps getting better. I think this is some of their older sculpts. But man, if you saw this on the table, you'd be very happy with it. Number 3 is Wire Games. I can't pronounce their name right. So they did a Kickstarter, I don't know, last year, this year. It's been a long few years, guys. And they did a High Elf team with classic High Elf aesthetic, but with a proportional twist in that they've gone with a more, I don't know, I guess they were going for more of a true scale, more of a natural scale build for their models. Now, the Kickstarter has been and gone. They are now fulfilling their orders. They're nearly there. So actually in a second we'll show you how much this team is going to be in their actual shop. And we actually got a chance to have a look at these models. Let's zoom in a little bit. So they've got a gaunt look about them. They are tall. They've got the high elf cone heads. They've got the skirt bits. They've got the gems. They've got that high elf. Just everything about them you know is high elf. They've got the blitzer helmets. In fact, let's scroll down a little bit. And hey, okay, there you go. So if you want to see size comparisons, actually, you can just watch watch our Kickstarter preview for them. So we've seen the models. Who's got the models now? I think we gave them to Sam Frenzy Garner to paint up and play with. And it's an interesting one. So they have ticked all the boxes for High Elves. You've got the capes, you've got the chest plates with the gems and the stars, which absolutely harkens back to old school Warhammer Fantasy, where you had chunky metal elves riding around on plastic horses, fighting goblins. Oh, it was a good time. It was a really good time. And they've got that. They've got the silver helm wings as well, and the blitzers. The blitzers are great. The really dynamic players, really dynamic poses across the entire team. So the catchers are well done as well. And then you've got the throwers, where they're kind of represented by elven nobility, which is a really nice twist. Normally, it's basically just a dude who looks like a lineman, maybe has got one less shoulder pad and no helmet. That's always kind of how the high elf throwers, or just generally speaking, elven throwers, are represented. Here, these guys are royalty. They've got crowns, they're princes, which I think is really... I like this. It represents how high elves work. If you guys ever played High Elves in Warhammer Fantasy Battle of old, in 6th edition they introduced a rule that was like the council. Like they have this democracy in this senate that overrides your general. So sometimes, intrigue at court, that was what it was called. Sometimes your general, unless it was Tyrion, could be a different general. And it was like, oh, my general was leadership 9, now it's this leadership 8 muggle dude. It was cool. It was aggravating, but High Elves were amazing. And I like that they've kind of gone that route. When Games Workshop just give a little bit of shot, a little bit of dynamism to the High Elf team, I really hope that they key in more to the great things that made High Elves really special. The bits of theme, like the fact that we're looking at elven royalty, like you've got the blitzers there, like just they're kind of like got that heavy cavalry vibe. There's so much that they can do with them, and Wire Games team here is one of the first ones that kind of really keys into that. They look different from every other team. They look different from a human team. They look different from the Games Workshop Dark Elf, Wood Elf team, Elven Union team. The proportions are different. They are elves. They've got small heads with long cones. It's a cool design. It is very much a Marmite kind of design. You either love it or you hate it. But I love the effort, the details of the sculpts, the way they've got all that high elf kind of style and lore basically into it. I love this thrower. It's a great pose. But there you go. Lineman without the helmet. And I guess the only other thing to mention is the way that Wire Games, and this is why I give them the edge over the other last two we've looked at, how, in my opinion, have got probably the best casting process of any Blood Bowl out there. The resin is so crisp and so clear. It's not 3D printed. It is old school cast miniatures. And they do such a phenomenal job. Even from their first Kickstarter, the models that they produced are executed really brilliantly. I love the star players too. They've got a whole bunch of cool stuff for this team. They've got the star players. I like that. I missed that. With the kind of... Oh gosh, Blood Angels guy with the mask. Oh, I feel terrible. Not Dante, the other guy, Tycho. Really like that. And then you've got the other half of the mask and Luciano's shift. Okay, cool. So they've gone to town, and the team will be available on the website quite soon. Okay, €75, 16 players. Your entire Games Workshop, your entire High Elf team roster is sorted. I love them. My number 3. Number 2 is Fanath. Now, you guys know that I absolutely love Fanath. They've got an old school vibe to them. Not like old school to the point where it's bad, just old school to the point where this executes exactly what Blood Bowl is. Now, I love this. I love the elf team that they've produced recently. They didn't go to Kickstarter. It just went straight to shop. And it was a pretty reasonable price too. We'll have a look at the price in a second. But again, now, where the line elves have got no helmets, you do miss a little bit of that high elf vibe. But they've got the scale mail on their jaunts. They've got the scale mail covering their kind of hips. They've got that kind of skirt bit. But really, when it just comes to the razzle dazzle of the blitzers, they are so familiar to the old 3rd edition models. The style is just really well executed. They've got, I mean, look at this arrogant spinning the ball on the finger. It's just so incredibly high elf. And then you come down the page and you've got some amazingly good Calidor blitzers. Like the way these guys are proportioned, the way their helmets work. Wow, my camera is really big today. I did not check that. There we go. The way they've just absolutely gone for the high L5 is bang on the money. Now, the team can also be used for regular elves, right? Because of the way that it's set up. Any of the high elves can. It works. Elven Union and the high elf roster is basically the same, just with slightly different speed and armor, right? So actually, the fact this team works for 2 is really, really positive as well. They look well armored enough to be high elves, but they also look elegant enough to not be. And the catchers have got less armor, so that's really evident. The throwers have got 2 great poses. They've got the classic throwing pose, you've got the showing off elven leadership pose, and you've got 2 great blitzer models in there as well. There's a really great bunch of different sculpts. I love the scale. The catchers have all got the lions on them, and this is just elves from the 90s and 2000s, and I really, really like it. And I think they've done a great job with getting the scaling right. Now, we've got a video for this team as well. I'll see if I can remember to put the link in here so you can actually go and have a look. But they've executed really well, and the casting is brilliant too. Now, Fanath looks like they're going away to 3D prints in some of their models. Their new Snake one was 3D printed, but this team is old school resin cast. They've sized it up really nicely to the Blood Bowl scale, which I appreciate hugely. Look at it. This is just as if the 3rd edition team was made in 2020. And quite frankly, with a roster that hasn't changed since 2005, that's kind of what you're looking for. And it's just a bargain. €65 for a fully whacked out team of 16 players. 2 throwers, 2 blitzers, 4 catchers, everything you are going to need to play elves. And the cool thing about Fanath is they do a light team as well for €49, where you get your core team, 2 blitzers, 2 throwers, and I think 2 catchers as well. So you can start out. Now, it's more expensive than 1 Games Workshop plastic box, but to get 2 Games Workshop plastic box, I think is basically the same price as buying the 1 team from Fanath with 16 players. Oh, that's interesting. They've got a little code here to show which players are included and which players aren't, I guess. Oh, yes. So this is the 12-man team, and these are the 4 players that you don't get. Good job, Fanath. That's well done. Anyway, this classic elf team from Fanath, if you're looking for high elves, is my number 2. Number 1 for me at the moment in high elf team land, I have to give it to the brand new STL only team from Agni. So first of all, before you go, I can't buy this team, Ben, you genuinely can. If you type in Agni High Elves right now, the first search bar is an Etsy team for £30 to get this team. Now, we did a video on this last week. We've printed them out. Trips, I think, is printing out a team to run in the Entoyment League. And It is beautiful. If you're having this team printed, I recommend scaling down to 90%. If you don't, it's fine. They're a little bit bigger. Scale creep is real, right? I think they're scaled to be the same size as the Elven Union team, which I think is 110% scale. So if you're going to get these guys printed, drop it down to 90 and you'll be absolutely fine. If you can't be bothered to get that changed, then you'll be alright. They're just going to be a bit big. This team is wicked. This team is just absolutely fantastic. Let's see if we can get some better pictures of it. Oh, maybe we can't at the moment. So we'll simply open image and new picture and we'll zoom in. Okay, here we go. So the team as it is now, Agni is still adding things to this team, but at launch there was, I think, 2 throwers, you've got 2 very cool blitzers, you've got some catchers, and you've got a great series of linemen, and they've added the wizard now in the top right hand corner. Whoa, that zoom is a real zoom. You've got a wizard now as well. So everything we've said about the other teams here is bang on the money. This is an elven team, a high elf team. You've got the star motifs on the belt buckles. You've got the scale mail covering the hips. You've got the silver, well, it's not silver, but it looks, you know, it's gonna be silver breastplates and shoulder plates to go with it. Now, stylistically, the faces are quite severe. They are well sculpted, but they are over kind of sculpted to represent that elven just super features. They look a little bit like an alien. They look a little bit like an alien race from Star Trek or something. So you know I was obviously really happy about this. But this, for me, right now, if you want a high elf team, any of this top 5 is good to go. But the best one out there for quality of sculpt is the Agni one. And the blitzers are so cool. Like, the way that they've got all the detail from head to tail, and they've got those really intricate masks. Each one of these sculpts is brilliant. Each one of these sculpts would be a great little painting project for you. Okay, print a team out, share it between your group of friends and get it painted up. They've done an absolutely outrageous job here, and I don't like to recommend a 3D printable team as the best team out there for high elves, but I do know that you can just go to Etsy and get this printed, so I don't feel quite so bad, because the price is going to be good for you. The team is great, and we've got an opportunity to support a great new company that's producing Blood Bowl. I'm really impressed with the Agni team. The scale was a bit big. It's not perfect, but it is, in my opinion, the best high elf team out there. For now, that is. We've seen this preview from Torchlight. Now, Torchlight are another STL Patreon, My Mini Factory tribe kind of thing. Now, Torchlight have got slightly cartoony vibes, like with their proportions. They dropped this as a preview of their next team, and I think you'll agree that looks incredibly high elf. It's the first start, right? The hands look a bit big, the face looks a little bit too over-detailed. But this is Model 1 Whip, work in progress. I'm very excited to see the entire Torchlight team when it does drop. Okay, so this top 5, probably the same as any of the top 5s, to be honest with you. Each and any one of these teams is great, is good to go immediately. You pick up the Star Player one if you can find it, brilliant. You order from RNE Studio, €100, that's great. You pick up the Fanath one for €60, that's brilliant. You get someone to print you off an Agni one, you're good to go. And when Wire Games get back in stock, you've got a team there, €75, ready to go. Third-party Blood Bowl is not cheap. Blood Bowl is the cheapest of the war games, though. One box of Blood Bowls, what, 35 quid from Games Workshop. There isn't one for high elves. So you're here now watching this video because you want to know what's out there for high elves. Agni is my number 1, but any one of these 5 teams is really good. Quality, sculpting's good, fits the vibe brilliantly. But like I said at the beginning, the original 3rd edition are good for now. You can kit bash your own, no worries at all. But if you just want to go and order and pick up a high elf team, hopefully this has guided you in the right direction. Now, I'm going to wrap up. Let me know if there's any team that we've missed or if you disagree with the top 5, because I do genuinely want to hear it. And also let me know what top 5 you want us to do next week. But for now, I'm going to disappear. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe in this heat, because it's outrageous. Literally sweltering heat rolled at the moment. Happy blocking.
Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content. We get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.